I have spent lots of time on Standing Rock. When I got there, there was 50 people on the ground, including Auntie LaDonna. And when we left, there was over 8,000. That is incredible. 8,000 people in less than 1 month. The last time I was here at this building, has anyone heard the story of the runners who ran from North Dakota to Washington, D.C.? Yeah? For those of you who haven't heard the story, the youngest child was 6. Actually, there was a baby who was 3 months old, but the youngest child was 6, all the way up to elders. They ran by foot from North Dakota all the way to Washington, D.C. to hand the Obama administration a petition that had over 150,000 signatures that opposed the Dakota Access Pipeline. This was at the end of July. They arrived to D.C. on a Friday. On a Monday that preceded the Friday, the Army Corps of Engineers issued the permit to begin construction. While they were running, they had been running for 2 weeks. The Army Corps knew that those kids, over 30 of them, were going to arrive on the Friday, and on the Monday, they chose to issue the permit. I mean, if that's not symbolic of this entire movement, I don't know what is. If we look at when President Obama, or when the injunction was denied to halt construction that Obama had put into place, it was right after a presidential debate, and it was on the eve of Indigenous Peoples Day. If that's also not symbolic of this entire thing, I don't know what is. I was arrested a month ago, maybe 3, or I don't even know. Time is relative. I was arrested, and it made news around the world. But what I want to say is that hundreds of Native American people and non-Native allies have been arrested, and their names and their voices have not been on the news. Their names and their voices have not been heard. It is great that it takes a white non-Native woman to get arrested to bring this to the attention of so many people. I mean, at least it brought attention. But we need to wake up and realize that we cannot depend on that anymore to bring our attention to something. We cannot wait. When I was here with the kids protesting against the pipeline, there was maybe 30 people, 50 people here with us. And now look at how many people have arrived since the end of July. That just goes to prove that when the people stand together, we cannot be silenced. So right now we have the opportunity to gather here and to recognize that all of these narratives that are being fed to people from the police department in North Dakota, the day I was arrested, they were saying we were wielding knives at them. There were no knives. There were children, there were elders, there was sage being smudged, there were prayers being sent up to the sky, tobacco being laid down. Hello? When we say this has been peaceful protesting, this has been peaceful protesting. I was charged with engaging in a riot. I don't know what kind of riots the people of North Dakota have been to, but the protest that I participated in was the last thing from a riot. So I want to thank you for gathering here, but like Jane Kleb said, we have to take action now. And the way to do that is hold this current administration accountable by sending Obama a letter. Now, it's going to be easy to go home tonight and be tired and to get back online and retweet all these great pictures from today and look at all the Facebook Lives from all the 300 cities around the world that are standing in solidarity. That's wonderful. But people on social media, they already know about Dakota Access Pipeline. Obama's mailbox doesn't know about it yet. And that is where we need to spend our energy. Further than depending on our politicians, we have to recognize our role. How many of you are with Chase Bank or Bank of America or Citibank? Wells Fargo? I mean, the list is infinite. No? Okay, that's great. How many of your family members? How many of your neighbors? How many of your friends? How many people on the subway and the metro that you sit down next to each night and don't talk to? What bank are they with? Do they know about the Dakota Access Pipeline? Us preaching to the crowd that already knows about it is wonderful because it gives us momentum and it gives us energy and passion and fire to continue. But what we have to take into our own hands is not only temporarily taking our money out of these banks that are funding the Dakota Access Pipeline and demanding that we will not go back to them until they divest from their investment in the Dakota Access Pipeline. But we have to encourage those who don't know. We have to educate those who don't know. Because we all know mainstream media is not doing it. We know a few amazing news reporters out there are talking about it and are talking about it with integrity and telling the right story. But they are few and far between compared to the other people who are telling narratives and spreading narratives that simply are not true. And I want to say, for all of us climate activists out there, we will never save this planet. We will never protect this planet until we realize we are this planet. So until we start communicating and treating each other, and this is not something to take lightly, until we start communicating and treating each other with empathy and with compassion and with kindness, all these trees are they will be sacrificed if we continue to sacrifice our human relations. And so we can use standing, I don't know any movement that has gone on for this many months that hasn't turned violent. This is amazing that over 10,000 people have gathered in North Dakota and there hasn't been violence that's been initiated from the protesters. Can you tell me one movement that's happened to? That have been constantly maced, constantly attacked, constantly been lied to. There are police officers who have resigned from their jobs because they cannot stand what their bosses are telling them to do. We have to give it up to them. And we have to say thank you for putting your livelihood, your career, your family's money on the line so that you can prove that you're not okay with what your bosses are saying. So thank you for showing up here. Thank you for taking the time out of your lives. And please, when you leave here tonight, talk to 5, 10, 20 strangers, not just tonight, but tomorrow, but the next day. We haven't slept in months, and we are not gonna sleep until this pipeline is done. And we need you guys to commit to the same thing, and we need you guys to help spread this message. Please inundate Obama's mailbox. Please divest from your banks. These are the necessary actions we have to take because this is not gonna get done if we don't stand up and do it. So thank you for being here and thank you for taking this powerful message that Standing Rock has shown us, that you can peacefully protest, that you can stand up with ceremony and with prayer as your weapons. We can all do that in our Western world. Because when we say we're standing with Standing Rock, we're also standing with the Native Hawaiians who are protesting against the telescopes that are being built on their mountains, their sacred mountains on Mauna Kea, on the Big Island. We are standing with every indigenous culture around this world. And we are standing with not only their future generations, but with our future generations. It is time to unite the nations. It is time to change these awful narratives that we have been fed as Westerners that are not true. You have the opportunity to educate yourself not only about the Dakota Access Pipeline right now, but about Native Americans, because the narrative that we know is not the right narrative. So take the time today to ask questions, to find who's Native in this crowd, and see how you can't do anything to change Standing Rock, but how you can support what they're doing. And if you haven't been to Standing Rock already, I encourage you to go. But I do want you to know that you have to go in a good way. And you have to go to speak to understand, not to speak to be heard. When you go to Standing Rock, whatever your intention or whatever you think you may do there, you're gonna leave and realize that you didn't do anything, but it did something to you. Because it is a spiritual change that we are witnessing. It is a higher consciousness that is permeating from the grounds in North Dakota right now, around the world, and waking people up to realize that now is our time. And if the Trump presidency has taught us anything, it's that all of us are equal and all of us have to be in this fight together. So thank you for showing up. Please take this momentum and do something. Thank you.